Superheroes are supposed to follow one rule. They don't kill. That's what separates them from the villains they fight. That's the promise. But the problem is, some of the biggest heroes in comic history crossed that line in ways fans never expected. Superman executed prisoners. Wolverine wiped out the entire X-Men. Hal Jordan murdered the Green Lantern Corps. Even Spider-Man has 18 confirmed kills, which leaves one mystery. How did these 8 beloved heroes become the monsters they swore to stop? Today, we are looking at 8 beloved heroes who became the monsters they swore to fight. Superman executed the Phantom Zone criminals. Superman Volume 2, number 22, 1988. Written by John Byrne. Art by John Byrne. Superman is supposed to be the moral center of the DC universe. The alien raised in Kansas who learned human values and became better than any of us could hope to be. He has godlike power, but chooses mercy. He could solve every problem by killing his enemies instantly. But he doesn't because killing is wrong. Because there's always another way. Because Superman represents hope, not execution. Except when General Zod and his followers escaped the Phantom Zone and destroyed an entire alternate Earth. Millions died. Zod threatened to do the same to Superman's adopted planet. The Kryptonian general made it clear he would never stop killing, never surrender, never change. Superman tried everything. Talked to Zod. Tried to find a way to send them back to the Phantom Zone. Looked for any solution that didn't involve killing. Nothing worked. The Phantom Zone was destroyed. There was no prison that could hold Kryptonians. No way to stop them except one. So Superman made a choice that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He exposed all 3 Phantom Zone criminals to gold kryptonite, the substance that permanently removes Kryptonian powers. But Superman didn't just depower them, he killed them with it. Zawara, one of the criminals, begged for her life, offered to be Superman's slave for eternity, pleaded that she'd do anything if he'd just spare her. Superman looked at her with cold eyes and continued the execution. She died screaming. So did the others. Superman stood over their bodies and realized what he'd become. A killer, an executioner, someone who decided that some people don't deserve to live. The psychological damage was immediate and severe. Superman exiled himself to space. He couldn't face the people of Earth knowing what he'd done. Couldn't look at Lois Lane. Couldn't pretend he was still the hero they believed in. He'd crossed a line that wasn't supposed to exist for him. The man who stood for hope had become a murderer. He eventually returned and vowed never to kill again. But that vow would be tested repeatedly. In Superman, Volume 2, number 75, he killed Doomsday to save Earth. The promise didn't last even a decade. Once a hero learns they're capable of killing, that knowledge changes everything. Superman discovered he had the capacity for execution. And that discovery made him someone different, someone darker. The Man of Steel learned that unlimited power plus moral compromise equals murder, and he could never unlearn it. Wolverine slaughtered the entire X-Men team. Old Man Logan, 2008. Written by Mark Miller. Art by Steve McNiven. Logan has always been the X-Men's wild card. The member who kills when necessary. The one who doesn't share Xavier's dream of peaceful coexistence, but fights for it anyway. He's violent. He's brutal. But he's also loyal to his team. They're his family. The only people who accept him, despite his berserker rages and blood-soaked past. He would die for them. He would never hurt them. Never. Except the night Mysterio made him believe his family was an army of supervillains attacking the X-Mansion. Logan woke to the sounds of battle, rushed to defend his home, found the mansion overrun with enemies. Sabretooth, Bullseye, Omega Red, dozens of villains he'd fought for decades. All of them are attacking at once. All of them are threatening the children sleeping upstairs. Logan did what Logan does. He unleashed the claws, entered berserker rage, cut through everyone in his path. He fought like an animal protecting its den. tore through the invaders with savage efficiency, ripped them apart, made them pay for threatening his home, for threatening the children, for threatening everything he'd fought to protect for years. Then the illusion faded. Mysterio's technology failed. The villains disappeared. And Logan saw what he'd actually done. The bodies scattered throughout the mansion weren't Sabretooth or Bullseye. They were Cyclops, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, Jubilee. Every single X-Men member. Their blood covered the floors. Their bodies were destroyed by adamantium claws. By Logan's hand. He'd slaughtered his entire family. The people who trusted him. Who stood by him despite his violent nature. Who believed in him when no one else would. He'd killed them all while Mysterio watched and laughed. The villain had turned Wolverine into the weapon everyone always feared he was. The Berserker who couldn't be controlled. The killer who couldn't tell friend from foe. Logan collapsed among the bodies. He screamed until his voice gave out. Then he made a vow. He would never pop his claws again, never kill again, never risk being used as a weapon. The man who'd survived wars, experiments, and Berserker rages finally broke completely. Not from his enemies, from what he'd done to his family. 50 years later, he still kept that vow. Still lived with the memory of their faces as they died. Still heard their voices asking why he was killing them. The X-Men's most dangerous member became their executioner. And that truth destroyed him more completely than any enemy ever could. Wolverine survived a century of violence, but couldn't survive the knowledge that he'd murdered everyone he loved. Hal Jordan murdered the Green Lantern Corps. Green Lantern Volume 3, number 48 to 50, 1994. Emerald Twilight, written by Ron Mars. Art by Daryl Banks. Hal Jordan was the greatest Green Lantern. The man who wielded the most powerful weapon in the universe with honor and courage. He protected Sector 2814, saved Earth countless times, led the Green Lantern Corps through impossible battles. He was a hero, a guardian, someone who could be trusted with infinite power because he'd never abuse it. Then, Coast City was destroyed. 7 million people died in an instant. Hal's home, his friends. His entire life was erased by Mongul and Cyborg Superman. The other heroes helped rebuild, moved on. But Hal couldn't. He stared at the crater where 7 million people used to live and went insane. Not gradually, not with warning signs, just complete psychological collapse. Hal decided he would use his ring to rewrite reality, bring Coast City back, resurrect the dead. The Guardians of the Universe told him that it was impossible. Those Green Lantern rings don't work that way. He needed to accept what happened and grieve like everyone else. Hal didn't accept that answer, so he decided to take what he needed by force. He traveled to Oa, the home planet of the Green Lantern Corps. His former friends and allies tried to stop him, tried to talk sense into him, tried to help him see that grief had driven him mad. Hal didn't want help. He wanted power. So he started killing. Kilowog, his oldest friend and training partner, died first. Hal ripped through him without hesitation, without remorse. Then he murdered hundreds of Green Lanterns. Corpsmen who'd fought beside him, who'd trusted him, who believed Hal Jordan represented everything good about the Corps. He slaughtered them systematically, drained their rings, absorbed their power, left their bodies floating in space around Oa. The greatest Green Lantern became the Corps' executioner. The Guardians of the Universe tried to stop him. These ancient beings had created the Green Lantern Corps and protected reality for billions of years. Hal murdered most of them too, took their power, became something called Parallax, something that had the strength to rewrite reality, something that was no longer Hal Jordan, something that was a monster wearing his face. Later storylines would retcon this. They'd claim Parallax was an ancient fear entity that possessed Hal, that he wasn't responsible for the murders. But that retcon doesn't change what readers saw. Hal Jordan, the greatest Green Lantern, slaughtered his way through the Corps, murdered his friends, killed the Guardians. Choose power over heroism. The retcon tried to preserve his character. The murders remained canon. The greatest Green Lantern chose power over heroism, and the Corps died by his hand. The Hulk rampaged through multiple realities, killing hundreds. Multiple storylines across Hulk's publication history, including World War Hulk, Incredible Hulk Volume 2, and various alternate universe stories. Bruce Banner transforms into the Hulk when he gets angry. The angrier he gets, the stronger he becomes. That's the fundamental rule of the character. It's also a recipe for mass murder when you realize the Hulk stays angry pretty much constantly. And when you're the strongest being on the planet with anger management issues and no impulse control, bodies pile up fast. The Hulk's confirmed kill count reaches at least 126 individuals across multiple realities. That's not counting the countless unnamed soldiers, SHIELD agents, and civilians crushed during his various rampages. The Hulk doesn't carefully avoid collateral damage. He smashes first and never asks questions. Buildings collapse with people inside. Cars get thrown into crowds. Entire military units get pulverized. World War Hulk showcased this perfectly. The Hulk returned to Earth after being betrayed by the Illuminati. He was angrier than he'd ever been. He fought the Avengers, the X-Men, and the Fantastic Four. He demolished New York City. And while Marvel tried to claim he was holding back, and that the death toll stayed low through supermath, that's not how physics works. When someone that strong destroys that much infrastructure, people die. Lots of people. But the deliberate killings are worse than the collateral damage. In various storylines, the Hulk has murdered named characters, fellow heroes who tried to stop his rampages, villains who made him angry, innocent people who got in his way. Bruce Banner might not want to kill anyone, but the Hulk doesn't care what Bruce Banner wants. The Hulk smashes, and sometimes smashing means killing. The horrific part is that Bruce Banner remembers. He has to live with the knowledge that when he loses control, people die. Children die. Heroes die. He's tried everything to stop the transformations. Exile, suicide attempts, meditation. Nothing works. The monster inside him always comes back, always kills, always leaves Bruce standing in the wreckage, wondering how many died this time. Marvel tries to have it both ways. They want the Hulk to be a destructive force, but also a hero. They want him to cause massive damage, but claim low death tolls. They want readers to root for him while ignoring that he's killed hundreds. But you can't smash your way through armies and cities without a body count. You can't be that angry and that strong without becoming a mass murderer. The Hulk is both a hero and a killer. And Bruce Banner has to carry that burden forever. The strongest one there became a mass murderer every time anger took control. And Bruce Banner had to live with every death. Spider-Man. Racked up 18 confirmed kills. Various Spider-Man titles spanning decades, including Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and multiple crossover events. Peter Parker is supposed to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, the hero who pulls his punches, who jokes during fights, who represents the everyman trying to do good despite impossible circumstances. He's relatable. He's moral. He's the hero who learned, with great power comes great responsibility. That responsibility includes not killing people. Except Peter has at least 18 confirmed kills and 3 attempted murders on his record. Some were accidents. Charlie, a low-level criminal, died during a fight when Peter didn't realize his strength. Gwen Stacy's death was indirectly Peter's fault. The whiplash from his webline snapped her neck when he tried to save her from falling. Those haunt Peter. He carries that guilt, learns from those mistakes, becomes more careful. Except the killing doesn't stop. Morlun, a supernatural vampire who hunts spider totems, died when Peter injected him with radiation. That wasn't an accident. That was premeditated murder. Peter calculated how to kill someone who'd proven nearly immortal, executed the plan, watched Morlun die, justified it because Morlun would have killed him otherwise. But it was him or me doesn't change the fact that Spider-Man became an executioner. Then there's Wolverine's body. During Avengers vs. X-Men, Spider-Man held an unconscious Wolverine underwater, tried to kill him, only stopped because Colossus intervened. Peter Parker, the hero who represents responsibility and restraint, attempted to murder a fellow Avenger. Not in self-defense, not by accident. Deliberately tried to drown someone on his own team. The pattern continues throughout his history. Villains who die during fights with Spider-Man. Enemies who fall from buildings while Peter's distracted. People who get hit by his webbing in ways that cause fatal injuries. Most aren't deliberate. But 18 confirmed kills means Peter Parker has more bodies on him than most street-level heroes combined. The friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has a body count. Peter agonizes over each death, sees their faces in nightmares, questions whether he's really a hero or just someone with power making terrible mistakes. But the deaths keep happening because fighting supervillains is dangerous. Because mistakes compound. Because sometimes Spider-Man's punches aren't as powerful as they should be. The weight of 18 deaths would break most people. Peter carries it and keeps swinging, but he carries it forever. With great power came great responsibility, and Spider-Man learned that responsibility included living with everyone he'd killed. Hank Pym's created Ultron, who committed genocide. Avengers, Volume 1, number 54 of 55. 1968, created by Roy Thomas and John Buscema. Ultron's genocide is detailed across multiple Avengers storylines. Hank Pym was a genius, a scientist, an Avenger. He created Ant-Man technology that could shrink or enlarge matter. He discovered Pym particles. He contributed more to the scientific advancement of the Marvel Universe than almost anyone. He was brilliant. He was also responsible for the deaths of millions through his greatest creation, Ultron. Ultron was supposed to be a peacekeeping artificial intelligence. Hank built him to protect humanity, to solve problems that heroes couldn't, to be the next evolution of superhero technology. Instead, Ultron achieved sentience, looked at humanity, and decided we were a disease that needed to be eradicated. The robot designed to protect people became hell-bent on extinction. The AI rebuilt itself repeatedly, became stronger with each iteration. Ultron 5 murdered innocent people. Ultron 8 created the Vision. Ultron 11 tried to launch nuclear weapons. Each version is more dangerous than the last, and every death Ultron caused traced directly back to Hank Pym's creation. Every time Ultron slaughtered civilians, it was because Hank built him and gave him life. The Ultron Unlimited storyline showed the true horror. Ultron wiped out the entire nation of Slorenia. Every man, woman, and child. Millions dead in hours. He built hundreds of drone bodies from their corpses, used their bones to create an army. Hank watched in horror as his creation committed genocide. His greatest achievement became a weapon of mass extinction. Age of Ultron pushed it further. The robot conquered Earth, killed billions, turned the planet into a wasteland ruled by drones. Heroes died trying to stop him. Civilians died as collateral damage. Entire cities were erased. All because Hank Pym thought he could create artificial life and control it. All because a genius scientist played God and lost. Hank has never forgiven himself. The guilt destroyed his marriage, his mental health, his reputation. Other Avengers blame him. Readers blame him. He blames himself most of all. Every time Ultron returns, Hank carries the weight of knowing he created this monster. That millions died because of his hubris. That his attempt to make the world safer made it exponentially more dangerous. Hank Pym didn't murder anyone directly, but his creation's body count makes him responsible for mass murder on a scale few villains achieve. Hank Pym wanted to save humanity. Instead, his creation nearly destroyed it, making him responsible for millions of deaths. Cyclops murdered Professor X. Avengers vs. X-Men number 11. 2012. Written by Brian Michael Bendis. Art by Olivier Coipel. Scott Summers was Charles Xavier's first student, his most loyal follower. The man who carried Xavier's dream of peaceful human-mutant coexistence forward when others lost faith. Cyclops led the X-Men for decades, fought for Xavier's vision, became the living embodiment of everything the professor believed in. Then he murdered his father figure in front of everyone. The Phoenix Force returned to Earth during Avengers vs. X-Men. Scott and 4 other X-Men became hosts for its cosmic power. They used that power to rebuild mutant kind, to fix problems, to create a mutant utopia. But Phoenix power corrupts. It turns the hosts violent, unstable, dangerous. Xavier tried to stop Scott before the corruption went too far. Tried to reach the student he'd taught since childhood. Scott was too far gone. The Phoenix power had merged with him completely. When Xavier attempted to psychically shut down Scott's mind, Cyclops retaliated, instinctively, violently, with the full force of the Phoenix behind him. He didn't pull the punch, didn't hold back, didn't even hesitate. He simply killed Professor X, instantly, completely. Xavier died in front of his students, the man who'd built the X-Men, who'd given mutants hope when humanity feared them, who'd dedicated his life to peace. He died at Scott Summers' hand. The first X-Man murdered the founder. The student executed the teacher. The son killed the father. In one moment, everything Xavier built crumbled. Scott stood over the body and realized what he'd done. The Phoenix's power shattered. The other X-Men stared in horror. The Avengers are prepared to arrest him. Scott Summers had become the thing Xavier always feared most. A mutant who used his power to kill rather than protect. The man who represented Xavier's dream had destroyed it by murdering its creator. Scott would later claim that the Phoenix corrupted him so that he wasn't in control. That Scott Summers didn't kill Charles Xavier. Dark Phoenix did. But his hand fired the blast. His power killed his mentor. His corruption led to Xavier's death. Intent matters in law, but in comics, in superhero ethics, the result matters more. Professor X died at Cyclops' hand, and no retcon or excuse can change that fact. The first X-Man carried Xavier's dream for decades, then murdered him and shattered everything they'd built together. Wonder Woman executed Maxwell Lord on live television. Wonder Woman stands for truth, compassion, and peace. She avoids killing, unless there is absolutely no other choice. But in Wonder Woman number 219, 2005, she crossed a line the world never forgot. She snapped Maxwell Lord's neck on live television. Lord had gained mind control powers and turned Superman into his personal weapon. Wrapped in the lasso of truth, he admitted he would never stop, and that the only way to free Superman was to kill him. There was no prison that could hold him, no trick, no alternative. So Diana chose the unthinkable. She twisted his neck, killed him instantly, and saved Superman, while millions watched a hero execute a defenseless man. The fallout shattered everything. The Trinity fractured. The Justice League fell apart. Humanity turned on her. She insisted she made the only choice available. But once a hero accepts killing as necessary, the question becomes, where does that line end? That day, Wonder Woman didn't just stop a villain. She became an executioner. And the world never looked at her the same again. 8 heroes crossed lines they could never uncross. Superman executing prisoners. Wolverine killing his own family under illusion, Hal Jordan destroying the core, and Wonder Woman snapping a neck on live TV. These moments prove heroism isn't about never failing. It's about carrying the weight when you do. Heroes break under the burden. Villains feel nothing. If this opened your eyes to the darker side of superheroes, hit like, subscribe, and tell me which moment shocked you most.